Good morning.
You forgot to do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good morning. There's a cheetah on the wall.
Is that a cheetah?
That's a cheetah. That's a lion.
I feel like we're in like a safari room.
I think it is a safari room.
I know. We're with some friends, and we're actually staying. We're staying with them. We're visiting with them today. So we're here doing our devotional in a guest bedroom.
A safari bedroom.
Yeah.
There's a zebras there, and there's a giant ape. No, it's not it.
I think that's an ape.
It's a monkey.
Anyways.
So, yeah.
So guys, I know that we said we were going to continue talking about Nehemiah.
Yeah.
So we're going to get right into it, okay?
So, did you want to actually read some of it, or other than that one verse that really jumped out at us?
Yeah.
Or just kind of...
Whatever you want to do.
You want me to share that with them?
Whatever you want to do.
Okay. So, the other day, guys, we were at Winco. Some of you don't know what that is. Some of you do. Man, that thing makes your face look hecka bright.
Whoa. That is crazy. Look at that.
We have it real bright.
Well, because I can't see.
I know. And Winco is basically, for those of you that don't know, it's a huge grocery store. We have one in Tracy. We have one in Stockton. We have one in Modesto.
And I think you were in line, right? I was in line, and you said, "Oh, I'm looking at some books right here."
Yeah, because I don't know if you guys, but if you do have a Winco, then you know that they have books that are Christian based, you know. And are you tired?
Stop it.
You gonna make me yawn?
You're trying not to.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Anyways, I love getting books, especially study books. And I have a couple of these types of books, but I like getting them anyways because there's might be information that the other ones didn't have. Yeah. So I found this really good book. It's called The Complete Guide to the Bible. And I found it there, I think for $20. And $19.99. And I like these things because it gives you overviews, you know. And like I said, I have a few of them, but I like it. It's full color and it's just nice pictures. Anyways, we're reading a little bit about Nehemiah, some more interesting facts, stuff I didn't know. You know, so number one, I think we left off on basically talking about him wanting to rebuild the city.
Yeah.
You know, and how relevant that is. But the one verse we wanted to get to is Nehemiah 6:16. I have my Bible right here. Let me grab it. I didn't have my Bible ready. There it is. But I did learn some cool facts I didn't know before. But let's read the verse. Nehemiah 6:16 says this.
My face is bright, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. It says, "And it happened when all our enemies heard of it, and all the nations around us saw these things, that they were very disheartened in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was done by our God."
And in the Message it says, "When all our enemies heard the news and all the surrounding nations saw it, our enemies totally lost their nerve. They knew that God was behind the work."
Yeah, so this is what was happening, what I didn't know. And I don't know why I didn't know this, because I've read through Nehemiah a few times. But when Nehemiah finally went to rebuild, first of all, remember the king said, "Why are you so sad?"
Yeah.
And he basically says, he asked for permission to go and rebuild his city. And it's awesome because he basically just asked for permission, like a furlough.
Yeah.
And the king not only granted it to him, but he sent with him armed guards. and a letter from the king saying to give him safe passage. And he gave him a paper that when he got to Jerusalem, I guess there was timber, wood, that wood would be released.
Well, it was given favor.
Yeah, so he ended up going to Jerusalem fully loaded with soldiers, guards, and safe passage and permission to get wood. So this is what this verse is about. Is what I didn't know is they rebuilt the city in 52 days. 52 days. So Jerusalem had been taken captive 150 years before this. So Jerusalem had been in rubble, right? Rubble.
And there was also a relevance to a date. Can you?
Well, what's interesting is that we're reading Nehemiah 6:16, and it's talking about how the people were amazed that they were able to rebuild in 52 days. And Sharon goes, "What's the date today?" And I said, "No." You go, "What's the verse?" And I said, "Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 16." And she goes, "Today is 6:16."
Yeah.
You
and
know?
I just thought that was just, I thought that was really cool, guys. You know, that we're actually gonna talk about that, because I really feel with a lot of the things that are going on, I just think that it's time for us to really change our hearts, our mind, our perspective, our everything. And it's time for us to think that it's time for us to rebuild, you know, and if we haven't changed our perspective and our mind and our hearts, then maybe we need to now think that it's time to do it, because I think a lot of us have just sat back and just waited for things to change, and I think we need to make the choice to make the change.
We're waiting for COVID to be over. We're waiting for the protesting to stop. We're waiting for, and what are we waiting for? You know, and it's like, at the time of Nehemiah, in those 150 years, in those 150 years that Israel, that Jerusalem was captive, right? In that span of time, other people had came and joined in. It says there was Arabs, there was Samaritans, there was neighboring people. So when Nehemiah came with the plans of the king, right? The people that had settled there didn't like it. See, there are things in our nation, people have settled. And if God is calling us to rebuild, they wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
What are you trying to figure out? Oh.
Just counting something.
So, they wouldn't like it, you know? And it's like, so, are you listening? Okay, so what I'm saying is, people were settled in their ways. God raises up a man to go and rebuild, and everybody don't like it.
Yeah.
God is calling us to come back and rebuild, and people don't like it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting because, let me find the page here real quick.
Well, it was just kind of interesting to me because the church closed for 52 days.
Did it?
That's what I was counting.
Really?
Yeah. I went back and I kind of went back and if I'm correct, I believe it's for 52.
I don't remember.
Yeah. I believe it was for 52 days that our church closed.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And it was just interesting to me. So that's why I was just kind of looking at the calendar.
Yeah. So Nehemiah's given this project, right? Check this out. I'm going to read a little bit of this, and I might kind of word it in my own words, but there was non-Jewish people living in Jerusalem, in the holy city. 150 years they had been in Babylon. So now Nehemiah comes back.
Yeah.
And there's non-Jews living in the area. There's Arabs, Samaritans, Ammonites, and they condemn the project. They don't like change.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like change. They like things to be the way they were. And all of a sudden, God raises up this man to shake things up. It says, and these people didn't like it. It says, with good reason, because if the Jewish nation managed to pull itself out of the rubble, then the non-Jewish settlers in the area can expect to forfeit their land, because this was Jewish homeland. So the coalition of opponents, so these people that didn't, they all got together.
Mm-hmm.
All these people that hated them, they all got together. And it says this, that they did anything to create plots to stop the work of rebuilding. That first of all, they accused the Jews of rebelling against Persia. And Nehemiah's like, how am I rebelling? The king himself gave me permission.
Yeah.
So that gets squashed. And then they criticize the work. They're like, you're not even doing good work. They started saying it was sloppy work. Mm-hmm. And then that didn't work. They continue to build. Then they threatened to attack the workers. And that's the part where we titled yesterday that Nehemiah says, okay, if they're going to attack us, we can't. Here's the thing, though. That's a plot of the enemy, because if you're trying to build and you start getting attacked, then you start fighting and you stop building.
Yeah. So
Nehemiah says, no, you know what? With one hand, we'll have a tool and we rebuild. And with the other hand, we have a weapon to fight.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's exactly how I think how the church is now, is we can't get pushed into a corner that all we're doing is fighting and not building.
Yeah.
So then, real quick, it says, so then they're like, after all these plots don't work, they offered to meet with Nehemiah and negotiate, but really they were planning to kill him. You know, and whether he had intuition or discernment, but he decided not to go because it was a setup.
I mean, does it at the same time sound familiar with what's going on right now, though?
It sounds very familiar.
Because you have a lot of these politics and a lot of the government. You have a lot of the stuff with what's going on with the church.
You know,
to me, it just really sounds really relevant with what's taking place right now, even with the president. And just
what I find interesting is this non-godly king of Persia. Mm-hmm. He was the enemy of the Jews, yet he gave Nehemiah the permission to rebuild. Mm-hmm. So he was an ungodly person, but yet God still used him.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I was watching a video today where the White House, what is she? What's her title? The Christian woman, the young
the
lady.
young girl. Oh, she's the
young
secretary.
Woman. She's a press
speaker
or something.
Yeah, secretary speaker.
She made a point. She said, "How is it that CNN has no problem with the people that are out in the masses as far as COVID, but yet if a church has service, oh my God, everybody's up in arms. We're all going to get COVID now." You know, and it's like everything that God is doing, those that want things to stay the same are plotting different ways how to stop the rebuilding of what it is that God wants to rebuild. I believe our nation was heading in a direction and in a way, in a place where things were falling apart. And because of the favor that God has, and I'm not even going to say that God has in this nation, but God has in the believers in this nation.
Yeah. That
we have been crying out, and God has stepped in to rebuild, but now we're facing opposition.
Yeah.
You know, and but they were able to rebuild in a way that verse. Did I lose that? Oh, I have it. Let me read it again. Nehemiah 6, 16. Mm-hmm. It says, actually, let's read 15. It says, so the wall was finished on the 25th day of Elul in 52 days. Then 16. And it happened when all our enemies heard of it, and all the nations around us saw these things, that they were very disheartened in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was done by our God. Can you imagine if God did such a work that right now the world, I feel like America's a laughing stock to the world. Like the whole world is saying, seriously? Like you guys are the leaders of the free world?
Mm-hmm.
But if God did it then, do we believe he can do it now? That all the nations will see and say, God does exist.
Yeah.
You know, for the impossible to be possible. I see a city that was in rumbles and crumbled, rebuilt. So for me and many believers to say, you know what, America has lost its way, that's it, we would be hypocrites. Yet we read the Bible and we see the miracles that God did. So why can't God once again raise a nation up?
See, and I like what you just said, though, because if America has lost its way, it means that it was once, at one point, found. That it was once, at least at one point, functioning in the right direction.
Yeah.
You know? And it's sad because it has lost its way. You know?
Yeah. I've always, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No.
Okay. Because I was going to say, I've always felt that in principle, America is the greatest nation on this earth.
It is.
Unfortunately, when you mix humanity in it, it messes it up.
Yeah.
Everything, even that church, you know, everybody mostly knows a church that lost its way. But I can guarantee you, 99.9% of the time, when that church first started, the heart was right.
Yeah.
But corrupt humans came and it rotted from the inside. But that doesn't mean that our nation is lost, because the principles are there. The principles are there. And it's up to us. If we're not going to be the light now, then when else would we be the light?
Well, we need to, I really believe, is reinstate those principles. And, you know, what's that word when, oh my God, it's right at the tip of my tongue. It's the same thing as reinstate.
Reestablish?
Yeah, but there's a different word for it.
I don't know. We don't have the mic though, so you got to talk a little louder.
I know.
You're used to that mic, right?
I know I am. But anyways, it'll come to me, guys. But, you know, restoration. Because the only way that we can reinstate is through having a full restoration in our hearts. Without God being able to restore our hearts, then, you know, then it's a lost cause, you know, because we need to have a restoration in our walk with Christ. If we cannot surrender and if we cannot have that walk with Him and that relationship with Him, then there's nothing. Mm-hmm. Because He's the only way. He's the way, the truth, the life. He's everything. There's no other way. And, you know, and people are seeking, people are wanting, and He's the only truth out there. And there's no other way.
You know, another thing about Nehemiah that was cool, I mentioned a little bit yesterday, was the way he put the project together. Was he got all the men together, and he said he assigned certain sections of the wall to each family. So that way, and I like that, you know, because honestly, like, this is the way I approach things. Like when I write my books, when I put things together, if somebody says write a book, it feels like too big of a project. But if I can break it up into chapters, then I can just concentrate on chapter 1 and I don't have to worry about the rest, just worry about chapter 1. So I understand that. This is the way I work when I do things. And so when Nehemiah assigned different sections of the wall to different families, that way it doesn't seem too big. I believe that's part of the reason why they were able to do it in 52 days. Rather than saying, hey guys, let's just build this wall and let's, no. He says, each of us are assigned a section. So when you do that, imagine, let's say it was 100 sections, but you have 100 families. No wonder they did it in 52 days. 52 days is a lot because, you know why? Because even us fixing our church, I can, it's like, it's nothing like a wall, but nevertheless, it can be done. Yeah. So here's my point before I forget is, could it be that God is saying, David, I'm not asking you to fix the world. I'm asking you to fix your section of Modesto. And whoever you are that you're listening, God is saying, hey, I'm not expecting you to fix the world, but fix your section in Phoenix. Fix your section in New York. Fix your section, fix your family, fix where you're at. And the power of God can be shown.
And you know what's amazing is that those sections will come and interlock.
Exactly.
And become one. See, because the kingdom becomes one. We unite. And that's what that's about.
Yeah.
It becomes one. We are one. It interlocks, it becomes one. I just man, remember I told you that for so long, I am not kidding. I think for the last maybe 10 years, God has given me a vision that there is going to be an interlocking, that there is just going to be the biggest interlocking of hands praying throughout the nation, that people are just going to interlock, and I'm just going to see the biggest prayer chain throughout this world, and people are just going to lock throughout the world, and it's just going to be amazing. And that's exactly what I just seen right now.
If you're not convinced that everything that's going on right now in our nation is not a demonic attack, I pray you're going to be convinced with the next few sentences I say. If I would have told you 5 months ago, what is the most unchurched, unchristian state in our 50 states? So many people would say, oh, New York, or, California, or, Nevada because of Vegas. That's Sin City. You know what would have been the answer? This is fact. You can look it up. Is Washington is the most unchristian, unchurched state in all of the 50 states. Okay. Now let me say this. Right now, the core, even though what happened with George Floyd was Minneapolis, but there's a stronghold right now. I'm sure you watched the news. I'm sure you've seen the news that's happening in Portland. Or where's that? I'm all confused.
Where?
Up.
Seattle?
Yeah, no, it's not. Is it Seattle?
Yeah, where they're...
Yeah.
Seattle, Washington.
It's kind of late, guys, so Seattle, Washington. The biggest stronghold is in the very state where there are the least amount of Christians per capita in all of the United States.
Yeah.
Nobody can convince me that is not a stronghold of the enemy that needs to be broken and destroyed, because we don't fight against flesh and blood. We fight against principalities in high places. We are called to tear down the strongholds of the enemy. So the most unchristian place is exactly the place where there is chaos. Think about that, guys. Stuff isn't coincidence. There is no such thing. It is wickedness and evil at its highest level.
Yeah.
You know? So, but here's the thing. Jerusalem was torn down for 150 years. And God still raised somebody up to rebuild it.
Amen.
And if God did it then,
He's going to do it now.
He can do it again. What's that song? Do it again. Walking around. That's what that song's about, Nehemiah?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever know that?
Yeah. Walking around these walls.
Keep going.
I thought by now
they'd fall.
But you have never failed me yet.
That's Nehemiah.
Mm. Waiting for change to come. Knowing the battle's won. For you have never failed me yet.
Yeah.
Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. Faithfulness. Still in your
What does that
hands.
bridge say? The one that repeats?
This is. Hold on. You
I
should have stopped me.
Sorry.
Great is faithfulness, your faithfulness, still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never failed me yet. And it says, I've seen you move the mountains.
And I believe.
I'll see you do it again. You made a way when there was no way. And I believe I'll see you do it again.
Amen.
Yeah.
We're going to leave you with that. God can do it again.
Yeah.
He moves the mountains. Nothing is impossible for him. And if God can raise a nation, a city that was destroyed for 150 years, then what do you think?
Yeah.
You know, so, all right, guys, have a blessed day. We pray that this blessed you. Those of you that read through Nehemiah, I pray that you were able to discern and gather a lot. Maybe we added a little bit more that maybe you didn't catch, you know, and there's obviously other things that we probably didn't mention, but to me, it's a powerful book. You know, there's so many things that parallel. And that's why the Old Testament is so important, because it lets us see the character of God.
Amen.
And how he reacts to things, you know. So, anything else?
You know what I really love? I love the fact that that Nehemiah, how he had each man, you know, have the tool to build and yet protect. But I believe that even though he had the tool to build and protect, while the family was still there, I believe that family was working together.
Oh, yeah.
And building.
Yeah.
You know, and
the children were looking out.
You know,
the wives were looking
yes, out. Yes, and I think that together, everybody, that whole family, worked together to build in that whole area.
Yeah.
That they all together built.
Amen.
And I think that we have to remember that it's not the responsibility of just one. It's the responsibility of everybody together. And we got to remember that, guys, that we got to all come together and build together.
Mm-hmm.
And we all together have to carry that weight.
Yeah. And
build together. Amen.
Yeah. Amen. All right, guys. Have a blessed day.
Yeah. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. I think we'll still be here tomorrow. And then we'll be going. Yeah. We'll be here. We're with Sal and Monica, guys. So you guys remember they're our friends from SoCal. You know, they're up here in Northern California. So we're hanging out with them. It's their 13th anniversary?
Mm-hmm.
It's their 13th anniversary. But we're spending a little bit of time with them. And
yeah, Sal, Monica, they're the couple that came that had the idea to have the food giveaway, the grocery giveaway.
Yeah, so they're from SoCal. But God bless you guys.
You know what? One more thing, real fast, is I wanted to thank you guys, that those of you that had gotten the Moses painting. I do want you to know that we are sending certificate of authenticity.
Yes.
Each of those is numbered, like literally, because at a certain point, I'm going to end it. That way it's a limited edition. But today on the way here, I actually turned in the second one, the second brick. And so I'll be having those pretty soon also. I'm not sure when I want to share it, but.
Yeah. Amen. But we will probably still be here, like I said, because, they gave us an opportunity for us to be able to stay with them. So we're really grateful for that. And so we love you guys. We will see you guys tomorrow. God bless you. Have a beautiful day, a beautiful morning, and see you tomorrow.
Man, just remember, Jesus is King. Did that even?
That is so weird. Yes,
I'm trying to show it.
Oh my God.
Jesus is King.
Bye, guys.
Bye.